They're very much aware of the economic value of Taiwan, but I don't think that really explains their determination to bring Taiwan under the PRC flag. Bringing Taiwan under the PRC flag is a political goal that is driven by political interests and ideology, not any kind of pragmatic objective. So it partially has to do with history, right? Like, we inherited the Qing dynasty and we want the whole thing, doggone it, including Taiwan, which is a little iffy because they gave away large chunks of the Qing dynasty right after World War II. So, but we don't talk about Mongolia when we're in China. So, part of it's that sort of historical thing. Part of it is the US, right? Why is Taiwan not under the PRC flag right now? Because the US has stuck their big nose in this for 80 years. And so it's like an offense against China's national dignity that this third party has prevented them from getting what they want. So there's that too. If you're in Taiwan, that that big nose looks like protection from something that you don't want. But if you're in mainland China, that big nose looks like preventing you from getting something you do want. And then the third reason, I think, or another reason that the PRC is so determined not to allow Taiwan to actually move farther away from the possibility of bringing the two sides together is that PRC leaders have made this a litmus test of their own nationalist qualifications. They've made it a really super big deal for decades. And now they can't unwind the requirement that they've created for themselves. So for many reasons, none of which need TSMC to be true, I think the PRC is dead serious and dead set on getting what it wants in the Taiwan Strait.
So, if they're that adamant about it, do you think that means every year or down the line they'll get more bold in what they'll do with Taiwan? Like, they may start a land invasion one day or start a blockade one day?
I think it's really complicated because there are many considerations that the PRC leadership has to think about. One is just the difficulty of achieving their military objectives, and are they ready to pursue a military strategy? Because you don't want to do a military action unless you know it's going to succeed. And projecting military success is notoriously difficult. Like, hey, Vladimir Putin, how's Ukraine working out for you, right? That was supposed to be a very straightforward, quick strike, win the war, and go home to the parades and celebrations. Similarly, Gaza put up a way bigger fight, I think, than the Israeli Defense Forces expected. So you don't want to go in there, especially if you're China, like a country that is on the rise in the world. You don't want to go in there and get your nose bloodied, or you don't even want to go in there and win, but win ugly. So I think there are military reasons for caution. And there are also, like, you don't actually know who you're fighting, right? You might just be fighting Taiwan, and the natural defenses of 100 miles of pretty difficult water are not insignificant. But you might be fighting the US also. And behind the US, who knows? The longer this goes on, the more the world changes. And so from, projecting forward 10 years, it's really hard for China to know what's Northeast Asia going to look like in 10 years. Where's Japan going to be? Japan is shifting to the right to become maybe more sympathetic to Taiwan. There's the unpredictability of the US involvement, but then other factors as well. And then they also have to think about their global position. So a war in the Taiwan Straits, one of the major think tanks in the US and of course, I can't remember which one, but I remember that they were a good one, and I give credence to their research. They found that a war in the Taiwan Strait would basically devastate the economy to on an order of magnitude with COVID.
Devastate.
So do you want to do that? You want to be that guy who started the next giant global recession? So there are a lot of things that constrain China. And at the same time, Beijing is determined. So I'm not saying it's never going to happen. I'm just saying I don't think it's happening tomorrow.